Welcome, PFC Weekly fans. I am your host, as always, Louie T, here quickly to bring you a PFC Weekly Exclusive. Not going to keep you here very long, but I had the pleasure of talking to a couple of very knowledgeable guys in the football industry. Raiders Nation Central co-host Shawn Walli, as well as Benjamin Albright, a Pro Football Central and Bleacher Report writer. Both of these guys cover teams in the AFC West. Benjamin Albright being very close to the Denver Broncos as well as the Kansas City Chiefs. And Shawn Walli being the co-host of Raiders Nation Central. Of course, you know, he's talking about the Oakland Raiders. And so these guys will impart their AFC knowledge on us, and I want to share that with you. So here are these exclusive one-on-one Pro Football Central Weekly interviews. First up, Shawn Walli of Raiders Nation Central in his one-on-one interview with me on this very program. This is a Pro Football Central exclusive. I am pleased to be joined by Raiders Nation Central host Shawn Walli here on the program. He's here to talk Raiders football. How you doing today, Shawn?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful. Same can't be said for the Raiders quarterback situation. Let's talk a little bit about the carousel that is going on right now with the Oakland Raiders. And I tell you what, looking at this situation from afar, it seems like Terrell Pryor has a really, really good opportunity to snag this job with this final preseason game. Talk about what Pryor has to show in this fourth preseason game to solidify his position as the Raiders starting quarterback. And what does this thing go wrong for Matt Flynn in this quarterback competition?
Well, Terrell Pryor just has to continue doing what he's done, and that is make plays and make something out of nothing. That offensive line has been just atrocious, and the quarterback, mainly Matt Flynn, has been hit in about 2 seconds. And the average NFL quarterback needs about 3.5 seconds to get the ball away. And Matt Flynn's only been getting the blink of an eye, and that's not fair to him. And it just seems like there's a black cloud following Matt Flynn ever since he left Green Bay, because if you go back to last season, when he was set to be the starter in Seattle, that didn't work out. He had the same injury that they're saying he has right now, a tired arm, a sore elbow, to where he's not going to play this week in Seattle for the final preseason game. And so you've got 2 years in a row, Flynn is supposed to be the starter, and he's getting starter money, and the checks are rolling in, and he's supposed to finally lead a team, and it's backfired now a second time. And, you know, Louie T, it's just amazing that Terrell Pryor is definitely the most quarterback on the squad in Oakland with the best upside. That's never been the question. The question is whether or not he can consistently lead an offense and consistently throw the football accurately. And that'll be what we'll have to see Thursday in Seattle. And it's his job to lose at this point.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that he's in the driver's seat right now. All he has to do is go out and perform, and he'll probably be seeing a lot of backups in this football game, so he'll have a very good opportunity to show what he can do. Now, granted, Seattle, their backups are better than a lot of people's starters, so it still will be a test, but I think you mentioned something here that I want to talk about a little bit that I think is key in this whole situation, and that's this offensive line for the Raiders. They lose their left tackle. He's gone for the season. You look at the right tackle position with Khalif Barnes, and that's not a stable situation. They had to go off onto the street and find Alex Barron and bring him in. He's been a huge disappointment, and he's been a huge disappointment throughout his career. And so you look at this Raiders offensive line, and I think that with Terrell Pryor, the offensive line doesn't have to be as good because of his mobility. Do you think that that is something that Dennis Allen and that Raiders organization and staff has taken into consideration as well?
Absolutely, because you mentioned the can move and get out of the pocket and run, but he has to run for his life. And mentioning the fact that the offensive line doesn't have to be as good, they're not good, period. They haven't shown that they can protect the passer at all here in training camp or in preseason action. And, you know, it really goes back to years ago when Tom Cable was with the Raiders, not only as an assistant, but then the head coach. You know, they get to 500, 8-8, and then they send him packing. And then you had
Hugh Jackson.
Yep. Same deal. 8-8. Oh no, sorry, get out of here. They haven't been close to 8-8 other than those 2 seasons, and they sent the coaches packing when they finally had some progress. And it's just been one thing after another. They start to make some steps in the right direction, and everything just gets blown up, and they have to start over again.
And I think that there's another point that you just hit, that there's no consistency in Oakland, and there's no continuity. Guys aren't given opportunities to show what they can do over a 3 or 4 year stretch. They're getting rid of these coaches too quickly. Do you think that Dennis Allen will be another casualty in this Raiders organization if this team goes 2-14, 3-13 this season?
Unfortunately, I don't think Mark Davis has the patience to give Dennis Allen another year if they do only win 2 or 3 games. I think what needs to happen for Dennis to keep his job is good, tangible aspects need to be shown that they are making progress, that maybe they did somehow upset Denver once, or, you know, come out a couple wins more than anybody thought they would have, whether that's 5, 7, and maybe shock a few people. Maybe Terrell Pryor's the key to that, because he could create a lot more, and he showed that last week against the Bears, how he was able to run and scramble away from everybody, and then, you know, that crazy jump throw he had, it's like, where did that come from? Not textbook, not what they teach you, but it moved the chains.
Definitely. I was talking to a buddy of mine about that jump pass, and he said, I do not want to see that again. But like you said, it worked. I want to ask you about that dynamic. And do you think that Mark Davis is pulling the strings? Is little Davis pulling the strings, or do you think Reggie McKenzie has the final say-so in whether Dennis Allen will be back next season or not?
I think, you know, Mark Davis doesn't fall far from the tree, meaning that, you know, his father, the late great Al Davis, you know, he ran everything and he was the final say-so. You know, Mark may not be as much the dictator or the ruler of the entire organization like Mr. Al Davis was, but he's probably got a good portion of his father's tutelage in him. And, I mean, Reggie McKenzie is the right man for this job in Oakland, and if you look at it, they're finally trying to have that stability, and a lot of great former Green Bay Packer front office people are now doing excellent on the GM side, when you've got John Schneider in Seattle, who has Green Bay ties, and now Reggie McKenzie, the same thing in Oakland, former Green Bay front office man. And so they've learned the ropes from guys like Ron Wolf and great front office personnel, and now they're just trying to get the ball rolling and have that continuity and keep it to where, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. You know, it took 2-3 years of John Schneider and Pete Carroll in Seattle, and now it's taking 2-3, maybe 4 years of Reggie McKenzie having the reins in Oakland.
Yeah, and they had to clean up the books, and I thought that thus far, Reggie McKenzie has done a wonderful job, a magnificent job of trying to clean up the books and give the Raiders an opportunity to go out and be aggressive in free agency, something they haven't been able to do because they've done such a poor job of managing their money as an organization. And I would be remiss if I let you walk away from this interview without asking about Darren McFadden. What is going on with DMC? Haven't seen him a lot in his preseason, and we know about the injury history. Is this guy healthy? Is he ready to help this offense? Because the Raiders are going to have to run the football. They got rid of that zone run blocking scheme because it did not fit Darren McFadden. Is he ready to help this Raiders football team win in 2013?
Well, if you believe what former quarterback Shawn said, no. But exactly, getting rid of the zone blocking scheme is going to help run DMC, and the fact that he's not played a lot, it doesn't appear that he's injured from what we can tell. But again, you look at a lot of running backs around the league, the Arian Fosters, the Marshawn Lynches, the people that, we know what they're going to bring to the table every Sunday starting week one. And Run DMC fits in that category because he does have an injury history, so nobody wants to get hurt in preseason when the games don't really matter much unless you're trying to win a job. And, he really does have to prove that he can stay healthy and that he can put up numbers like he has in the past.
And they're going to need it in 2013 to have any shot at winning some football games. And they're definitely going to need the running game to take pressure off of this quarterback situation that could be a huge mess for the Raiders in 2013. But only time will tell what will happen in Oakland, in that black hole. So I thank you for joining me today, Shawn. It's been great, and I can't wait to see what the Raiders are going to do. And I definitely would love to have you back on the program talking Oakland Raiders in, say, another 5 or 6 weeks when we can see what this Raiders situation looks like then. Thank you for joining us today, and have a good one, Shawn.
All right, thanks for your time. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. That was Shawn Walli of Raider Nation Central on ProFootballCentral.com. Check out the podcast. A lot of great content up there. Shawn Walli, Raiders Nation Central on ProFootballCentral.com. Now, after talking to Shawn, you feel like the Raiders are a team that is desperately in need of some help in various areas. And we already knew that going into that interview, but it is very apparent that the Raiders are struggling not only at the quarterback position, not only on the offensive line, but there's some questions at other positions on this football team. You look at the running back position with Darren McFadden, and you have no clue what you're getting out of him. And the Raiders just have a plethora of problems, and not one position, not one player is going to solve them. Will head coach Dennis Allen be back? Is GM Reggie McKenzie actually pulling the strings, or is little Davis, that being Mark Davis, behind the scenes running the show just like his dad was as Oakland Raiders owner? And so we'll see how this thing shakes out in Oakland, but that was a very, very informative interview with Raiders Nation Central co-host Shawn Walli. So as we transition from there, we get to the one-on-one interview with Benjamin Albright, Pro Football Central and Bleacher Report writer. He is covering the Denver Broncos, and he has a lot of knowledge on the Kansas City Chiefs as well. He's not limited to those two teams. In fact, his NFL knowledge and college football knowledge is very broad, and he can talk about anything. But I chose to focus in on the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs in that AFC West division. Here's what that one-on-one interview with Benjamin Albright sounded like. This is a Pro Football Central exclusive. I am pleased to be joined by a published author, writer for Bleacher Report, as well as ProFootballCentral.com, Benjamin Albright. Thank you for joining us today on the program, Benjamin. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding, brother. How about yourself?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. As the season draws near, I'm doing even better as the days get closer to September 5th. You're out in the Midwest, and so you definitely have a lot to say about what's going on out in Denver, the Von Miller situation, how the Broncos have looked in the preseason, the fumbling issues of Ronnie Hillman. Let's talk about the Broncos here for a second. And the Von Miller situation has sort of put this Denver defense in a bind. They had the fax snafu in the offseason with Elvis Dumerville, and now they lose another half of that sack tandem in Denver. Does this defense have enough to withstand this 6-game suspension without Von Miller?
Well, I think they have enough to withstand it. Now, Now, to withstand it with a first-place record, that might be a different story. The loss of Dumerville, the loss of Miller combined is really what kills this team. I think you could supplement one or the other for a lengthy period of time. But as far as getting both, I mean, that's 75% of your pass rush from last year in terms of production. So when you look at what Miller and what Dumerville put on the field in terms of not just sacks, but hurries and pressures and altering the throws of quarterbacks, I think that Denver may be in for a rough go of it early in the season.
I would have to agree with you, and I don't think people understand how hard it is to put two double-digit sack getters on the field at the same time. The Broncos were able to do that with two of the best pass rushers in the league, and they now will have neither of them to start this season. Going to be a tough go of it. Do you think that a guy like Shawn Phillips can fill that void in the meantime?
To a limited degree. I think you're looking, Phillips can certainly mitigate some of the loss there, but when you look at what Shawn Phillips could do, Shawn Phillips was an elite pass rusher. I mean, he'd be signed by, he'd been signed out the gate. Everybody had been clamoring for him instead of him settling for a contract from Denver after being unceremoniously released, as it were. So, he's not the elite rusher that Dumerville or Von Miller is. He brings a little something to the table, and he can help be a stopgap guy, but he's not a guy you want to depend on going down the line.
Definitely. I've been telling Broncos fans that same thing. I've been echoing those sentiments that I just don't think that Shawn Phillips is going to replace what you got out of Elvis Dumerville. Now you're going to need him to step up even more in the absence of Von Miller as well. Let's talk about the running back position. And Ronnie Hillman has had trouble holding on to the football in the preseason. John Fox has come out and said that he is still in the corner of Ronnie Hillman. I tend to believe that the reason why he has to continue to instill confidence in him is because they don't have any running backs on this roster that possess the speed that Ronnie Hillman possesses. Do you think that Ronnie Hillman will be able to right the ship, hold on to the football, and if he continues to fumble, will we see him have a lesser role on this football team?
I think he's going to get a smaller role already than what people think. Monty Ball has really emerged. I know Fox said that he was in Hillman's corner, but I think Hillman may actually be the one who's in the corner, as it were, in terms of the coach's doghouse. But, fumbling the football, that's inexcusable in a John Fox offense. You can't turn the football over. He preaches ball security. Hillman coming out with a jump cut runner who had small hands and had a predilection for fumbling already. So it's really going to take some work, some strength training, some coaching him up to get that technique right, get the firm grip on the football, because there's less of a margin for error with those smaller hands. Another thing a lot of people don't realize is that Ronnie Hillman was the youngest player in the entire NFL last year. He's a young guy. He's got plenty of time ahead of him, plenty of time to learn and develop and continue to get stronger as a player. So I think that Hillman will right the ship eventually. I think that he's the guy that's probably going to need a little more work because of the youth. But you've got guys, no, Sean Marino's a stopgap. He's an average back in the league, and the Denver doesn't want to have to rely on him. He'll probably be cut at the end of the season. But Monty Ball looks to be emerging as a guy who can securely carry the rock. They wanted to use Ball as the guy from the inside the red zone, basically outside of the 20s. And they want to use Hillman from 20 to 20. But, it may be one of those situations where they're going to have to platoon a little more than they wanted to. Hillman's pass protection has been a little suspect at times. So he's a work in progress, but I think there's still time for him to right the ship.
I thought that Monty Ball coming into this draft was the most NFL-ready back in this draft. And when I look at Monty Ball, and normally the case with rookie running backs is that they cannot pass protect. Do you think Monty Ball is someone that John Fox and Peyton Manning trust in this offense to pass protect on third downs?
I think the Ball is a little ahead of the curve coming out of the offense that he comes out of from Wisconsin. Brett Bielema ran a pro-style offense that included pro-style pass protections for the running backs in limited passing situations. So I think he's a little bit ahead of the curve as far as a rookie running back goes. It looks to me like if you're a third and long, Fox is going to bring in no Shawn, who's got the experience in the pass protection game. But I think that Ball, with a couple of weeks of work and getting real-time game situations, I think he'll jump in pretty quickly. I really see a bright future for him, and I think that he's shown that he's looking like he's going to be running with the ones come opening day.
I've been very impressed with him in this preseason, and I see more explosion in that 4.6 that I saw at the Combine. And so he looks to be ready and primed to take over the bulk of the carries in Denver. Someone else that I have been overly impressed with in this preseason, and I think he could arguably be the most impressive player in this whole entire preseason, is Julius Thomas. Talk to me about his rise and how he's going to be used in this offense. He looks like a guy that Peyton Manning is going to get the ball to very often in 2013.
Yeah, he's a guy that really wanted to take over that tight end position this year. They've really given him every opportunity as far as that goes. You talked about a former basketball player. He's got incredible vertical leap. He's a great athlete. And he's a guy who's got a great catch radius. He's just got long arms and a great catch radius, and that's huge for a tight end. You get down there on the goal line, run the deep post, put the ball up, and there's no corner on earth that can cover that with his size. So what they want to do is they want to turn him into the next Rob Gronkowski, the next what's the kid down in New Orleans now?
Jimmy Graham?
Graham, yeah, Scott, name eluded me for a minute there. Jimmy Graham, that type of tight end where, they have outstanding leaping ability and a great catch radius where they can just lob the ball up for him in the red zone and let it go get it.
Yes, I've definitely been thoroughly impressed with him, and I think the sky's the limit for this guy if he continues to progress in this offense. I look at this offense, and we know about the injuries at that center position. Dan Copen went down. They were already missing their starting center before Copen had to step in. And so now Manny Ramirez is the center. Do you think he'll be able to hold it down in the interior of that offensive line? And is Wes Welker okay, and is he going to be ready for week 1?
Welker's looking like he's going to be okay. It's still kind of a cooling toss, but it's one of those things where there are hints coming out that he's going to be okay. As far as Ramirez goes, they don't want him as a long-term option there at center. They really don't. They brought in a couple of guys, some older guys to try to compete, maybe push him and things like that. But Ramirez is not a center. He's a guard. And there's just having him there at the center position is potentially a liability. Peyton Manning has always shown that interior pressure flustered him rather than exterior pressure, and that's pressure through the free gap. I don't think that he's going to be there. I don't think he's going to be the starting center all year. I think they'll rotate and they'll try to find a hot hand, a hot man, and get something going with one of these veterans who played with Manning before to try to get that resolved. He's done a serviceable job so far, but for a team that has title aspirations and a very short window in which to do that, I don't think you can ride Ramirez and keep your fingers crossed.
I would have to agree with you again. I just don't like that situation at the center position for the Denver Broncos. A lot of things in Denver just have you feeling a little uneasy, but with Peyton Manning as your quarterback, you always feel like it's always going to be okay in the end. Let's switch gears and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs as we continue on this AFC roller coaster, if you will. And I was very impressed with the Chiefs in this offseason, all the moves they made, going out and getting Andy Reid and John Dorsey to run that organization, and what they were able to do in bringing in Alex Smith. And I think the Chiefs are going in the right direction. I think they have what it takes to make some noise in the AFC West. What do you think the Chiefs are going to be able to do, and do you think the Chiefs have enough to compete with the Broncos in this division?
I don't know if the Chiefs have enough to compete with the Broncos. I think that the Broncos are shooting themselves in the foot with the Miller-Dumerville injuries and all the other stuff, and that may allow the Chiefs to sneak in there. The Chiefs and the Broncos, the only two teams we're talking about in this division. The Chargers and the Raiders are going to be vying for the number 1 and 2 pick, most likely. Both are going to be top 5 picks in the draft when it comes up to the Chiefs. With all things said and done, I look at them as about a 500 team with the ability to do a little better if they get the luck and the breaks fall their way. The main thing that they've got to do, Charles has been hurting a little bit. They're going to need him, and they're going to need rookie Niall Davis to really step up. Niall's the running back out of Arkansas. They're going to need them both to step up and establish more of a ground game than Andy Reid has ever had. This team is devoid of receiving talent, and the receiving talent they do have is undersized and often injured. When you look at Devin Wiley, you look at Donnie Avery, you look at Dexter McCluster, these are small guys. Delane Bowe is the only real size threat that they have on the outside since they traded John Baldwin to the Niners for A.J. Jenkins. Andy Reid likes to run those deep crossing patterns and stretch the field vertically and then dump it off to the tight end and the bigger body receivers underneath. So if he can get some of those guys to do that, that offense could be successful there in Kansas City. I could see a team maybe winning 10 games if all the breaks go right. But 8 or a 9-17.
The Chiefs, to me, are an enigma because, as you said, they have to be able to run the football. Alex Smith is not a quarterback that is going to challenge you vertically. And so I think the intermediate to short passing game is going to be vital for this offense to be successful. And they lose Tony Moyaki again, and I'm starting to believe that this guy just simply cannot stay healthy. And so now I think that is going to push another one of these guys up in their rotation that I don't know if they were ready for him to have to play. And, of course, I'm talking about their selection in this draft. His name escapes me right now. Yes, Travis Kelce. And is he ready to go? I don't know if Andy Reid trusts Travis Kelce or not. They already have Anthony Fasano out there, and so they do have a veteran that knows the ins and outs of the tight end position and how to get open. But I think Andy Reid wanted to run some 2 and 3 tight end sets. I think that has now been taken away from him. Is Travis Kelce ready to step in and help this team offensively?
Not as a starter. They got Fasano in there, but let's face it, Fasano isn't scaring anybody vertically. Even my grandmother could guard him as far as guard him vertically in the seam. He's a guy that, if Fasano provides a great blocking presence, he's got sure hands, and he'll be vital if they can stretch the field and get him open underneath. Kelsey will be used as a second tight end, kind of a push or move tight end. U-back, kind of the same way they used, when they had Pitt and Dixon over there at Baltimore, kind of when they used the second tight end as a move tight end. They'll bring him in at the goal line to try to provide mismatches and things like that, but he's not ready to be a starter at the NFL level yet. He's sloppy with his route running, doesn't understand protection schemes, the blocking game. He's just not the guy that you want to rely on if you're a team that has playoff aspirations.
Now I want to talk about this defense. I thought Alex Smith was allowed to be a game manager in San Francisco because the defense was so dominant in San Francisco. Now, looking at this Kansas City Chiefs defense, they had so many Pro Bowlers a season ago. They went out, they made moves in the offseason. They brought in Shawn Smith at the cornerback position. They brought in Donta Robinson at the cornerback position. Do you think that this Chiefs defense is good enough to help out this offense and hold teams down scoring the football and give this Kansas City Chiefs team an opportunity to win football games?
I think the defense and the special teams are the crown jewel of this team. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs quietly have one of the top 5 defenses in football on paper. When you look at what Walli and Houston bring in terms of pass rushing, Terry Poe has emerged as a force in the middle. They're a little weak at the end positions, but again, you're talking about 3 to 5 technique defensive ends rather than pass rushing defensive ends because of the 34 that they run. You got Derek Johnson there in the middle of the Pro Bowler. Eric Berry back there in the safety can move into the linebacking positions in sub-package situations because he's such a great open field tackler, and it provides them with versatility. The only position that I would be concerned about on the defensive end, and then the depth at corner. I know they got Shawn Smith and they got Donta Robinson, but these guys are gamblers. You can't really afford to gamble, when you're bringing a 34 to bring a heavy pass rush because you're going to have man on the outside most of the time. So you can't really afford to gamble. Smith got burned a couple of times in the preseason, kicking back at the quarterback, looking to gamble. He did get an interception, but again, you're going to have to be guys are going to have to be on the P's and Q's and make sure that they are playing man coverage and not trying to peek back there and gamble and get the showy interception.
And that was one of the issues the Dolphins had with Shawn Smith is gambling and going after the football. He's a big, physical, long corner that thinks that he can get in the grill of every receiver in the league, and sometimes it comes back to haunt him. I saw these corners really tested against Drew Brees earlier on in the preseason, and he was able to throw the football on these guys. And so it'll be very telling to see if these cornerbacks can hold up. If they can get pressure with Houston and Walli and those guys, if they can get to the quarterback, it'll definitely alleviate some of the pressure off of that secondary. But I'm definitely going to be anxious to see if this Chiefs team can put it together, if Andy Reid can get these guys to play winning football after that miserable season they had last year. And I agree with you. I think those are the 2 teams in that division, the Broncos and the Chiefs, that will be competing. And I'm just hoping that the Chiefs give the Broncos a run in this division and the Broncos don't seal this thing up by week 12 like they did a season ago. I think the Chiefs can compete. And the biggest question mark for the Chiefs to you is?
outside of Dwayne Bowe, I don't see anybody that scares anybody. And can Alex Smith throw the ball vertically, stretch the field so that they can get some of these underneath patterns with that we like to run and take yardage in chunks. The offensive line, the interior of the offensive line has been a bit of a question mark this preseason. So I'm really looking at the pass game, and the interior of the offensive line is the big question marks.
I think that is definitely going to be the case. And because Alex Smith is a game manager, a guy that doesn't stretch the field a lot, I'll be anxious to see if Dwayne Bowe will be satisfied with the amount of targets he's getting this season, because I don't know if he'll turn into a malcontent or not. But Alex Smith is a guy that is very cautious, does not stretch the field a lot, and he will take a lot of underneath throws. So we'll see how this passing game is able to evolve over this season. I thank you so much for the insight and the time, Benjamin. Again, Benjamin Albright of ProFootballCentral.com and Bleacher Report joining us today on the program. Thank you so much for your time, Benjamin.
Anytime, brother. Hope to hear from you soon.
Definitely. Benjamin Albright, everybody. So after talking with Benjamin, he makes me feel like the Kansas City Chiefs aren't really a huge threat to the Denver Broncos in the AFC West. I myself believe that the Kansas City Chiefs, if the ball bounces their way, have a legitimate shot of taking that division. I don't really know if I am totally sold on the Denver Broncos. They've got a lot of issues of their own, but he seems to think that the Denver Broncos, if they stay out of their own way, will cruise in this division. And I can't say that I don't disagree with him, but I do feel like the Kansas City Chiefs do have a legitimate shot of winning that division on their own merit if they play good football in 2013. Nonetheless, those were some very interesting interviews, and I thank both Shawn Walli and Benjamin Albright for their time. And I tell you what, only time will tell what will occur in the AFC West, and only time will be able to sort out what will happen with the Oakland Raiders, with the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Denver Broncos. But one thing's for sure, as Benjamin Albright alluded to, this is a two-team race between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. And so we will see how this division unravels in 2013. Those were both very interesting interviews, and I thank them both, Shawn Walli and Benjamin Albright, for their time. And that's going to do it for me as well here on Pro Football Central Weekly and this exclusive. Thank you for joining me. See you next time. And remember, don't watch me. Watch TV. Have a good one. And remember, we are Pro Football Central. Have a good one.